Right, and we're live. I am delighted to welcome Jose Seara, CEO and founder of DeNexus, to the CyberBytes OT podcast. How are you, Jose?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me here today.
Good. Obviously, a busy few weeks coming up in America, but I'm sure we'll kind of dive into your heritage a little bit more. But have you got much planned for the upcoming weeks?
Yeah, I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving week. It's a big week here, and I've been in the US already for 17, 18 years. So it's a big family week, and then Christmas around the corner.
Absolutely. And in terms of DeNexus, how's that going for you? Obviously, you've been running the business now for a number of years. Give us a little bit of an insight, maybe, in terms of how these things kind of come around and your kind of founding ideas as such.
Yeah, I launched the Nexus in 2019, so 5.5 almost years ago.
Hmm.
In the Nexus, we are doing cyber risk management through cyber risk quantification for industrial companies. Before the Nexus, I was exposed to this risk myself. So I was sitting on the other side of the table and I was exposed to this risk, and I was getting increasingly frustrated by the lack of effective solutions for me to do my job. And when I exited that last company, I decided to turn my problem at the time into a business opportunity, and that is the Nexus, where we are trying to solve the problem that I had.
Hmm. Absolutely. So take us back. You mentioned there that you were on the other side of the table. I mentioned right at the start of this podcast that you obviously have the Spanish heritage. Please talk us through a bit about your background and really how you got into the industry.
Yeah, happy to. So I'm from Spain. I was born in Barcelona. I grew up in Madrid, two really different cities, and I have a little bit of both. And professionally, I grew up in Madrid. I like building things, and I built a few companies in my life, always in the physical critical infrastructure space, mostly power generation, where I built things using different technologies, from conventional power to renewable energy, transmission and distribution of electricity, and so forth.
Hmm.
One of those projects brought me to the US in 2006, and I went to California, San Francisco, to build a renewable energy company. And I spent 12 years building that company from scratch. We developed renewable energy projects in the US and in Canada, built a few megawatts of renewable energy. In that company, we were, as I mentioned before, overly exposed to cyber risk, and that's how I became intrigued on the cyber security and cyber risk management space,
Brilliant.
being exposed to the problem.
Okay, cool. And in terms of your background, then, why cyber? Why OT? Was it growing up and being an interest of yours, or kind of fell into the industry, or?
Why cyber? As I mentioned, because I was exposed to the risk, and I was overly exposed to the risk, so I spent time with the team trying to understand how we could do better. And why OT? Because in my particular case, my exposure came much more from operational technology networks than from my IT corporate infrastructure. And in the process, I learned that the space was much more immature. Cybersecurity-wise, OT is behind IT in cybersecurity for a number of reasons. So it's a space that needs to double down in efforts to catch up with IT cybersecurity, and it's an underserved area which opens a business opportunity, and that's why I launched the Nexus to cover that gap and to serve an underserved area of business.
Hmm. Brilliant. Okay. And in terms of the kind of targets for you guys, you've obviously mentioned that you were exposed to this issue. Um, were you working for one of those kind of industrial businesses then, or is that really now just a focus for you guys at DeNexus?
So we began at the Nexus, we began with the electricity industry,
Hmm.
mostly because I came from that space,
Hmm.
with the easy entry point. But over time, we have evolved and we've built technology to cover other spaces. other sectors of the industry. And at this point, we can serve customers evidently on the electricity power generation space, transmission and distribution of electricity, big physical critical infrastructures, manufacturing, transportation, specifically airports. And about a year ago, we began to work with very large data centers that are known as hyperscalers, very, very large data centers.
And why data centers? Is that just a new area for, I don't know, these bad guys, for example, to try and expose, or is it just because of the size of them, or?
Yeah, a little bit of two or three things. So one, these large data centers are very large industrial facilities. They need to be powered with electricity, and they need really big cooling systems to keep those servers, computers cooled down. So they are very, very large industrial facilities. Second, it's an area where growth is hyper growth. So there are more and more of those data centers every day. And third, they are a sweet target for the bad guys because there is a lot of money in that space. There is a lot of intellectual property that can be compromised. There is a lot of industrial facilities that can be disrupted. The footprint of those facilities keeps growing. There are depending on how many or how different sizes you count, more than 10, 12,000 of those facilities worldwide. And it's a sector that is growing at 20, 30% growth. So it's becoming an absolute target for the bad guys.
You made a very, very good point there that obviously OT threats are growing more and more year on year. You obviously founded the business a number of years ago. How do you think that has developed from, say, day one of where you started to today? Is that more people get smarter, or just more, there's just more of everything, and that's where the bigger issue is coming nowadays?
I think that the exposure is clearly growing, especially as the macro situation is fluid in the world, and there are state-sponsored actors that go after these big critical infrastructures. But what is really growing is awareness. When we began 5, 6 years ago, the level of awareness about OT cybersecurity and OT cyber risk was in its infancy compared to IT cybersecurity. Nowadays, there is no question, and the market knows that these OT infrastructures are being compromised or trying to be compromised, and the level of awareness has increased tremendously, which is great because evidently it's a growing risk. These type of industrial facilities, in some cases, are legacy facilities that were built many, many years ago when they were less exposed to the same risk. So it is important that through education and through many activities, the level of awareness in the market is increasing. And now it's easier for us to explain our value proposition and to get traction in the market.
And how have you guys had to probably sort of keep innovative and things like that? I keep going back to it, but 5 years ago, or just over 5 years ago, when you set the business up, like you mentioned, that you understood the threat, but as things are always changing and even awareness is growing, how are you guys as a business at DeNexus staying ahead of that trend to make sure that once you kind of get in with a customer, that customer is with you for beyond, because you're always changing to deal with the threats?
Investing in innovation. This is a complex risk to model, which is the core competency of our technology, modeling the risk. It's a really complex risk to model with many, many different drivers outside to my customers and inside to my customers. And some of them really, really fluid. There are new vulnerabilities being discovered and being published every single day. So to keep up with that level of dynamism and evolution, we need to keep investing in technology. So that is a must, and we allocate a significant amount of our financial and human resources to keep improving the technology to try to stay ahead of the game, which is difficult because usually it's more reactive. The bad guys develop something and then the industry reacts to that and protects itself. But back to your question, innovation and investing in innovation is what keeps us ahead of the game.
Brilliant. And do you see this kind of OT, I suppose, landscape improving? Or do you think like people are kind of getting smarter to it, or do you actually see the businesses improving and the threat sort of lowering slightly?
I think that it depends on the sector.
Okay.
There are sectors that are really maturing and are investing on protecting themselves, cybersecurity and risk management. And there are sectors that unfortunately are behind the curve. And probably the driver in some cases is just access to capital. Cybersecurity is not inexpensive, and
Agree.
management is not inexpensive. So you need to invest significant resources, financial and human, to protect those infrastructures. Some sectors, manufacturing, healthcare, in many cases, they are well funded. Some other sectors, and the first that comes to mind is water treatment and
Okay.
waste water treatment. They are undercapitalized and they don't have the budgets to keep up with the evolution of the threat.
Brilliant. And in terms of cyber resilience, then, do you sit in between the kind of backup side of things and also like disaster recovery, or have you kind of created your own sort of pioneering part of cyber alone and into this OT space?
No, what we do is we help our customers to understand where they need to invest in cybersecurity and where they need to invest on risk mitigation, and when and where they need to invest on risk transfer to procure insurance protection to achieve that resiliency, combining reduction of risk, mitigation, and risk transfer. No matter how much you invest, the risk is never zero, especially for these large and sometimes legacy infrastructures. At some point, something really bad can happen, and resiliency cannot be met just through cybersecurity or risk mitigation. It needs to be brought with additional products like insurance. So when the black swan event happens, you are prepared to react, not only with security tools, but also with money to make things back up and running.
Brilliant. And where is the business today, Jose? We probably could have and should have started on this, but a big announcement for you guys recently. What was that? And please tell the viewers.
Yeah, big announcement recently. We are venture capital backed, and we closed our Series A financing in August this year. Prior to that, we raised our seed financing almost 3 years ago. The difference between seed and A is significant, and now we are working on getting the company ready for exponential growth. We are at that inflection point where we go from being a really small startup to a less small startup, properly capitalized to grow and to serve more customers. We are using the money from the Series A to keep investing in technology. Back to the previous question, we need to keep investing in innovation, and also to grow on sales, growing the sales team, and eventually also our main market is the US, and it will be the US for the foreseeable future. But we are setting also the foundation to be the global business that we want to be.
Absolutely. And how do you think you will achieve that? You've obviously come from Madrid and so forth. You still have individuals based over in Madrid running or working for DeNexus?
Yeah, great question. When I launched DeNexus, I was living in San Francisco. DeNexus is a US company. We have subsidiaries in 5 different countries already. But the whole company, or the main company, is a US entity. That said, we have three main locations that we run the business from. Boston, where the headquarters are and where I live. Madrid, where we have most of the innovation team, software developers, data scientists, mathematicians, statisticians. The product team is there. And London, where we are building a risk transfer practice. Those are our three main locations.
Okay, and you mentioned there you're looking for exponential growth. So, albeit that comes into technology hiring, but as a business, you obviously want to keep like culture and everything as good as it can be, and trying to grow a global business may be sometimes difficult because, for example, you may have individuals who are located in a space where they're the only individual, or first on the ground is a term used in cyber quite a lot. What are your thoughts going forward in terms of growing a business elsewhere, or getting individuals in across the globe and really getting them embedded into the DeNexus kind of mission and vision for the business as well?
Yeah, over time we will grow the company in the main industrial hubs in the world.
Okay.
Evidently, North America being one of them, and our top primary market. Europe, Middle East, oil and gas is really exposed to this risk.
Yeah.
Northern Europe, United Kingdom, and eventually Australia and Asia Pacific. Those are the main industrial areas in the world, and those that we will go after over time.
Hmm. Brilliant. And in terms of like a Series A type of thing, give us a little bit of kind of not advice, but kind of maybe a little bit of an insider in terms of how those things go. Do you kind of have to present business cases to obviously potential funds and stuff like that, who then kind of buy into your solution?
Yeah, raising capital is a full-time job, and
While being a CEO, right?
yeah, it's a long lead item. So usually, in my experience, you need 1 to 2 years of relationship with potential investors for everybody to be ready to fund when the time comes. For reference, the lead investors in our Series A round were venture capital funds that I met in some cases more than 2 years ago.
Okay.
Technically speaking, we launched the round on April 1st, and we closed in August. Quite efficient, 4, 5, 6 months start to end. We were able to identify our lead investor in a couple of months. We signed the term sheet, I think it was in early June, launching on April 1st, so 2 months to identify the lead investor, month and a half to negotiate financing documents, and then 1 month for closing and funding. So again, start to end, 5 months, give or take, but with a big caveat that in most of the cases, the investors invited to participate in our round were investors that I've been working with for the last year or 2 years in some cases.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Look, coming sort of towards the end of the podcast, one thing I'd like to kind of push on is you mentioned earlier on that you must invest in staying innovative and what to do. You're obviously not the only vendor out there that want to try and focus on OT cyber risk management or cyber reliance, that type of thing. How do you as a business keep staying ahead of the trend? Take away investment from this, like in terms of you guys day in, day out, how are you staying ahead of the trend that maybe there is other startups coming up through the woodwork and want to kind of do what you do with the customers that you have?
In our case, really, we have an exclusive dedication to OT cyber risk management. Other companies doing similar things than us are more generalistic, and they try to cover OT and non-OT.
Okay.
So in our case, investing in OT, investing on expertise. Our OT cybersecurity team is small because we are small, but it's the best money can buy. Investing on the best mathematicians and statisticians that we can find in the market, providing them with intense training on this specific or special flavor of cyber risk, that is OT-driven cyber risk. It comes back to talent and investment and on innovation, which is not only technology. And I should make that point. Evidently, we are using cutting edge technology solutions, but technology is just a tool. It's not the end. Technology solves problems that you know how to solve. You solve them faster and efficiently through technology. But we invest on understanding the underlying problem that we are trying to solve.
Brilliant. And then, look, I don't expect you to reel off your complete and utter business plan, but what is next for you guys? Obviously, nearing end of year. One, how's the year gone? And two, what's the outlook for 2025?
We are working now, technology aside, on the business. We are working on fine-tuning our go-to-market strategy. We need to find a good product market fit, which entails not only delivering the product that the market needs, but doing it at a scale. We have just completed a significant restructuring of our go-to-market team. And that new team is building that machine that hopefully will find that product market fit sooner rather than later. And then it's a matter of scaling. Now we are especially focused again on some industry verticals and some geographies. And once all of that is perfected, you throw more gas into the machine, and then you scale. So the next year is heads down, working hard, trying to improve our processes and our go-to-market strategy to find a real product market fit that allows companies to scale.
Brilliant. And to wrap this podcast up, Jose, a little bit away from OT, I've probably completely gone into everything, but in terms of cyber in general, or if you want to keep it to OT, absolutely fine. What one piece of advice would you give to myself, anyone listening to this, in terms of protection and the best thing to be?
All of us are exposed to the risk, so we need to be mindful and we need to be careful. Easy advice: don't click on anything that you are not 200% sure you should click on. Don't take pictures of QR codes that are everywhere. As for a paper menu when you go to a restaurant, don't scan that QR code. So be mindful that is a real risk, and be careful. And at the same time, feel safe, because you are usually exposed to that risk through companies that provide you with services, banks, financial institutions, wherever the entity supporting this Zoom conference. They are really good. They are investing on making the world safe, and they are building a lot of safeguards for us to do our job. So being mindful, being careful, and at the same time, don't panic.
Perfect. Well, I think that was very well rounded off. Appreciate you jumping on, Jose, and thank you very much for an insight into what you guys do over at DeNexus.
Thank you, Ben. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, please like and share with your friends and colleagues, as this is really important for the show's reach. If you'd like to be our next guest or are interested in Aspiron Search's staffing solutions, please get in touch directly with me or reach out to us via our website www.aspironsearch.com.